All right, so I have a confession to make. So I quit drinking alcohol, and now I am addicted to self-improvement. That's what we're going to talk about today. Obviously, that is me being a bit facetious there, but it's something that does come up. It's an interesting conversation that I've had with people over the years of sobriety. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Dylan Reed. I am a certified professional recovery coach. I help people quit drinking alcohol and change their lives for the better. And today I want to talk about cross-addiction, poly-substance use, what that looks like, and then what life looks like when you actually stop using substances, and how you might find yourself falling into other disordered behaviors, because that's very common, and it's something worth discussing so that people are prepared for that part of the journey should they find themselves dealing with it. So polysubstance use, if you guys don't know what that is where very common is using cannabis and drinking alcohol, either using it together or flip-flopping back and forth between the two of them. Super common thing you'll see, especially in the youth. Like, they'll drink sometimes, they'll smoke sometimes. They might quit smoking because they might have to for probation. That's something I experienced. And then they go to drinking and just flipping back and forth, but always having some sort of substance that they're using to emotionally regulate, because that's a lot of what that can be for people. Of course, all sorts of other substances come into play here. That is just a reality. But what we see, this is like the common party line. If you quit drinking alcohol, you can't do anything else, or else you're not sober. That's not my party line. I don't want people to do anything else. Like, I do practice my program is a program of pure abstinence, but I'm not pushing that on other people. I just know that that's what works for me. I definitely believe in harm reduction, okay? But I just want everyone to understand that that stuff comes with risk, okay? Because if your main drug of choice is alcohol, and let's say you decide you're going to start, but people will start using cannabis gummies to sleep or something like that. The next thing you know, they're drinking again because they were one cannabis gummy and oh, I'm thirsty now, and they decide to drink a beer, and then they're back on the same boat. So it's something worth keeping your eyes open for. And the other thing is, you can develop a disordered behavior with cannabis, with its use. It can be just as disordered as drinking alcohol. The difference is that maybe the level of destruction occurring in your life is less, but that we still need to be aware that it's disordered behavior, no matter what. We don't. Even being in the harm reduction camp, we at least have to recognize there's still harm. That's seriously important to understand. That's why I'm big in a program of just pure abstinence, right? The next thing that happens is, let's say you do whatever your drug of choice is, you quit doing it completely. Then you might find yourself falling into other disordered behaviors. Eating is the absolute most common one. For those of you that are just joining me, I see a bunch of people coming in. Mike, Zach, Ryan, nice to see you guys on here. If you've never been on here before, feel free to ask questions at any point in time. It doesn't even have to be directly related to what I'm talking about tonight, which is polysubstance use and swapping addiction for addiction and what it looks like to be sober. If you've got any questions about sobriety, about addiction, about disordered behaviors, please drop them in the comments. I will address them while I'm here. That's why I am here. I'm here to socialize with you, not to talk at you. I'm here to talk with you. If you've got comments, you have any sort of experience, anything like that, feel free to drop it in there, and I will most definitely engage with you. That's what we're here for. So to the disordered eating thing, right? The number, if you just spend any time on the internet in the sober circles, you're going to run into people who are talking about how they just eat so many sweets now that they've gotten sober. And that's a very common thing. Has to do with dopamine, has to do with our body. It's a high calorically dense food. And that's what happens is calorically dense foods. Our brain is thinking this is super, super useful for my survival, which is the same thing it was thinking when it was drinking as far as dopamine is concerned. It's hey, awesome, we did a thing. Let's learn what he did to make this thing happen, and let's get him to do that more often so that we survive, so that we're comfortable. That's what it's looking for, right? So people will turn to sweets, okay? It is a disordered behavior. I mean, if you're eating sweets in a way that you don't want to do it, that's disorder, folks. Like disorder 101 is you doing a thing that you don't want to be doing, okay? So if you find yourself eating a bunch of candy instead of drinking alcohol, you just need to ask yourself, am I in a better place today than I was when I was drinking? And more often than not, the answer is yes. I mean, if you're like a diabetic, probably not a smart move. Pre-diabetic, probably not a smart move. But for the rest of the population, it's not a huge deal if you do find yourself kind of like getting busy with some sweets. Because it's easier to quit drinking sweets than it is to quit drinking alcohol. And that's just a reality. So for a while, you're eating a bunch of sweets, it's okay. I did that. I 100% did that. I specifically remember a conversation. My aunt called me. This was like shortly after I'd gotten sober. She asked what I was doing, and I told her I was at the grocery store buying a pint of ice cream. And she goes, "That's better than a pint of whiskey." And she was 100% right. You know, and I don't eat in that disordered fashion anymore. I'm pretty conscious about the things that I eat. Pretty mindful. I have spent seasons where I'm like very, very particular about the things that I eat because I have certain fitness goals at that time. But I'm not like eating a whole sleeve of Oreos or something, which is something I would have done at some point. So then the cool thing, an interesting artifact of having fallen into any disordered behavior is that you can begin to notice it in other behaviors, right? So there was a point where I was most definitely falling into disordered eating land. I was eating my feelings, as they say. And I had a night where I went to Kroger to get like some sweets. It was like probably 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. My kids had got my kids to go to bed, and I'm like, going to go get some sweets. And it felt like going to the liquor store to me. It was like the same feeling. I was like, what am I doing this right now? This isn't actually making me feel better. What is this about? And I was able to identify that behavior thanks to having experienced disordered behavior of drinking alcohol, right? So you can see these things, but I want to point this out. People try to say you just have to switch one addiction for another. Everyone's swapping an addiction for another, blah, 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 blah. I don't buy it. I believe that a lot of people are, okay? But I don't believe that you have to. The thing that we have to recognize, everything is habitual. Everything is habitual. It does not matter what your behavior is, it is habitual. Good, bad, left, right, up, down, it doesn't matter. It is routine. You trend towards routine because that's the way that we survive. That's how we maintain homeostasis. That's how we find spots that keep us comfortable and lead us to believe that we're going to survive. We will spend our whole entire lives looking for habit, looking for routine. There is no way around it. You get up around the same time. You go to bed around the same time. You go to work at the same time. You eat foods around the same time. All of these things are occurring, and we don't think about that because it's not disordered. The thing is that with behaviors, we don't recognize things that are out of sorts until they're out of sorts. It's like if you walked into your house, you walk in your living room has looked the same that it has for who knows, decades potentially. The couch is where the couch is, the TV is where the TV is. Like the only time things change is probably when you get a new piece of furniture. And that's just a reality. As long as you have the same furniture in your living room, it looks the exact same. You don't notice it. You don't even think about it. You don't think about the painting that's on the wall or the photographs that are on the wall. You don't think about any of that stuff. But what you do think about is when the rug isn't where it belongs, right? Or if the couch has been shifted ever so slightly. You walk in that room that you never think about, ever, and all of a sudden you're paying attention to everything in the room. That's what disordered behavior is like. So if in your life, all of your habits and all of your routines are in order, everything is fine. But as soon as something's out of place, you're questioning all of the stuff, okay? And that's to say that your life is your living room. It is the habits. It is the routines. Your routines and your habits are the couch and the chairs and the curtains and all of that stuff. And as long as it's all in place, everything's fine. And nobody cares. No one will say anything to you. You're not feeling like things are out of place. Everything's fine. So that is to say that, no, you don't have to trade addiction for addiction. But you are going to trade a disordered behavior. That's what an addiction is. Okay, potentially with a physical component, like you may have become somehow chemically dependent, but that's not actually most disordered behaviors. Most disordered behaviors don't have that. You could just quit and it's okay. There's no chemical dependency, okay? It's a behavioral issue. So when you lose that behavior, you're going to take on a new behavior. There's no way around that. But that doesn't mean you're swapping an addiction, a behavior, a disordered behavior for another disordered behavior. If you stopped drinking alcohol and you now go to the gym 5 days a week, there will be people that will say, like, you're just addicted to the gym now. Nah, bro, I decided I wanted to be healthy instead of the opposite, okay? That's not falling into a disordered behavior. Now, if you quit drinking and you start going to the gym 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, for hours on end, taking performance-enhancing drugs and wanting to step on stage for the next Mr. Universe, sure, we can have a conversation about that being a disordered behavior, but that's not what most people are doing, okay? I've had people try to call me out. I run a lot, 30, 40 miles a week. I spend hours, sometimes hours in a day, running. And people will say, well, you're just addicted to running now. No, like I have decided that I want to live a longer life. And in order to live that longer life, I am undertaking the activities necessary to build the body that will allow me to do that. I need to be functional. Your quads are one of the greatest predictors of longevity. The size of your legs, the amount of muscle mass in your legs. And it's for many factors. Part of it has to do with the way that your body can process blood sugar when you have more muscle mass, and the fact that you just have the more muscle mass, which means eventually you're not going to have more muscle mass. Your muscle mass will begin to deteriorate. You will not generate much more of it. Well, the more muscle mass you have when you have that flip, the longer you get to have the muscle mass in the long run, which means the longer you get to live before you're very old, frail, and can't take care of yourself, right? It's not a disordered behavior. It's not an addiction, but it can look that way because it's very routine. It's very habitual, okay? But are you going to come at somebody for having a disordered behavior when they brush their teeth on a regular basis? Probably not. If they compulsively brush their teeth, sure, we can have that conversation. But what we need to recognize is there is no way to leave a disordered behavior behind without picking up a behavior. Like that's it. So then you just need to be mindful about the behaviors that you pick up so that they're not somehow destructive. That's what you're looking for. You can't beat that. You're not going to be able to quit drinking or quit eating or pornography or gambling or whatever that thing is. You're not going to be able to quit doing it and then just like sit down and do nothing. It doesn't really work that way. I mean, I guess, no, I don't think it works that way. I don't even see, I guess. Like I was thinking like, I guess you could become like a monk or something and just like meditate all the time. But like even then you're doing something. The other thing to recognize is not doing something is doing something. That's still a thing. You're replacing that with something. It's impossible, right? And some might argue that doing nothing is also becoming a disordered behavior if there's things that you need to do, right? So we need to just accept that we don't trade one addiction for another. You're going to trade time for time. And what you want to do is replace the time spent drinking or whatever disordered behavior you're dealing with. Replace that time with something that's moving you closer to towards your goals. That's really it. Like the part of the reason that I'm sober and have remained sober is I realized that action, that activity wasn't taking me towards my goals. It was not moving me towards the life that I wanted to live. There was a very clear moment before I got sober that kind of started this snowball effect where I did decide like it's time to do something. I had slipped on some ice. A guy that I barely know reaches his hand out to pick me up off the ground. I'm outside of a bar. He goes to pick me up off the ground. He says, "What are you doing with your life?" As a joke, complete total joke, like just being funny. And I was like, I don't have an answer to that. I didn't say that to him out loud, but I'm thinking, I don't have an answer to that. And I didn't like that, which meant I had no goals. I had no dreams. I had no ambitions, and I wanted those things. I wanted to be able to answer that question. I also knew the only way I was going to answer that question sufficiently was to get sober. I wasn't going to be able to move towards a life that I wanted to live if I continued to drink alcohol. It was that simple, right? So since then, I have spent a lot of time on personal development. reading books, picking up hobbies, spending time in the gym, spending time running, taking courses, having coaches, all of that stuff. And people, sure, like I said, have argued that I'm addicted to this or I'm addicted to that. Well, I'm sorry, if the self-development books that I've read are an addiction, if me bettering myself is an addiction, it's one I will gladly take part in because it's not self-destructive like the disordered behaviors that we generally talk about. And it's just really important to recognize that. I think it's important mostly because a lot of people, when I just got a message about this just the other day, they quit drinking and they're like, I don't know what to do with my time now. Literally anything you want is what you do with your time now. Healthily, hopefully, right? When I say literally anything, obviously I'm not suggesting that someone goes from like drinking alcohol and now doing methamphetamines or something. Like that's not what we're talking about. But I'm saying like, you want to learn to play the banjo? Do that. If that brings you joy, I'm all about it. You want to read books? Cool, do it. You want to journal? Great. You want to write a book? Great. You want to walk? You want to run? You want to jump? You want to play? I don't care. When I say I don't care, I don't mean I don't care. I mean it's your prerogative, your choice. Do the thing that you want to do, that you feel like it's moving you in the direction that is better for you and the people around you, which is generally not where somebody's at in active addiction. Usually, we'll use the living room metaphor again. We're making a mess of the living room. We're like rearranging the furniture in a way that no one else can even walk through our house. They gotta like climb over couches to get to the bathroom. Nobody wants to deal with that. And eventually people won't want to deal with you either. Like that's just the way that goes. So you leave your disordered behavior and you're gonna fall into another behavior. So find a healthy one. And the thing is, if you find a healthy behavior that's easy to maintain, it's even easier to stay sober. You're not fighting an uphill battle. You're not constantly like, what do I do on a Friday night? Well, I already know what I'm going to do on a Friday night. And eventually you've created a habit and it's second nature. You don't think like, oh, do I want to drink tonight? It's not a question that comes to mind because you already know what you're going to do. You knew what you were going to do on Friday, on Tuesday, on Monday. You know what you're going to do on Friday, the last Friday. You know, I joined some sort of league, right? Like, oh, I joined a pickleball league on Friday nights. Okay, well, it's every Friday night. So you just already know this is what I'm doing with my Friday night, you know, that part of the thing, the gym, okay? There are a lot of people that get sober that go to the gym Monday through Friday when they get off work because the thing they used to do when they get off work was drink. So now they know that I have an hour or so a day that I don't have to worry about what I'm going to do with my time. And this plays into the role of willpower, the role of what they call decision fatigue. That's when you don't have the willpower left to make a good decision and you fall into disordered behaviors. Well, if you've already made the decision ahead of time, you've decided that Monday through Friday I go to the gym, even if you are exhausted, even if you're at risk for having decision fatigue and making a mistake, you don't make the mistake because, well, I've actually been going to the gym Monday through Friday for 6 weeks now. That 7th week isn't so hard to maintain that routine, even if it's been a grueling week at work. This is the stuff that we do to maintain sobriety, make it like maintainable, something that you don't like. Your maintenance plan is minimal. You know, you don't want to have some sort of what they will call is a relapse prevention plan. That's just a way to say like, I'm going to maintain my sobriety by doing certain actions. And should I relapse, then these are the actions I will take after that, okay? You don't want to create some sort of maintenance or relapse prevention plan that requires you to rethink it every week. Think about how exhausting that would be with literally anything else in your life. If you're at your car, if every week you had to figure out what you needed to do to keep that on the road, I've had that with a vehicle that was nickel and diming me, and it's a horrible experience. This goes out, and then this goes out, and then this goes out. That's not cool. So what if we're talking about our own life, our own routine, to where we don't even have one? It's exhausting. It's horrible. Some of us begin to experience that at the end of active addiction because we're creating such a mess in our life that we don't know what's going to be next. And that's super stressful, which can then lend itself to more active use. It sucks, right? But once we're out of that, create a maintenance plan for your life that's as standard operating procedures as possible. You want to know what Monday through Sunday looks like before Monday's even arrived. Like, plan your week the week beforehand. Doing things like that makes it easy. And that's how you can identify, am I swapping an addiction for an addiction? Am I swapping a disordered behavior for another disordered behavior? Because you're actually taking the time to be an architect of your life and design a life. Like, okay, well, this is the behavior I used to have. This is the behavior that I have now. Taking the time to do that means that you're living with intention, which is something many of us don't do in active use. You're a firefighter instead of an architect. You're spending every day just trying to get to the next day instead of spending every day doing exactly what you planned for you to do days before that, weeks before that, months before that. There's a huge difference in the way that that feels. There's also a huge difference in how difficult it is, or lack of difficulty, when it comes to maintaining sobriety, maintaining orderly habits, behaviors that are orderly instead of disordered, because it is not exhausting any longer. It's different. It's different. It's good for you. I want to take a minute. I want to scroll through some of the comments. There's been a bunch of people coming in, and I apologize. I just wanted to get through that. If this is your first time here, my name is Dylan Reed. I'm a certified professional recovery coach. I help people work through disordered behaviors, identify them, and replace them, remove them, whatever you want to do with that. Help people get sober, change their lives. I'm currently live. I am taking questions, comments, all that stuff. If it's related to sobriety, addiction in some way, shape, or form, I would love to engage with you, whatever you've got going on. Maybe help you with some issues, help loved ones with some issues, whatever that looks like. I'm here to socialize with you. I'm here to engage. That's why I'm live streaming instead of just posting this up as a video. I'd like to take a second to thank everybody who's on here at this point. Scotty D, dude, what's up, man? Nice to see you on here. And Allison, Chris, I hope you're doing well, man. Old childhood friend right there. Daniel and Evelyn and Lynn, thank you guys for being on here. Elizabeth, nice to see you on again. Jason and Jonathan, nice to see you, man. You are ways away from here. Robert and Thornton Sam. I want to assume your name's Sam and your last name's Thornton, but I don't know. Nice to see you on here. Oh my God, if I get your name wrong, I pre-apologize. Shivanan, nice to see you on here. Sheik, nice to see you. Rebecca, nice to see you on tonight. Hope you are doing well. And we've got Oscar in here and Jordan. Nice to see all of you. I appreciate it. Again, if you have questions about recovery or addiction, maybe you're in a place where you're not really sure what your next steps should be. I've definitely helped many people kind of work through some things live in here. There's some advice I won't give. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not going to help somebody detox. I get that question from time to time, like, how do I detox? Well, you talk to your doctor is how you do that. It isn't as dangerous as most of us believe that it is, but it can be. And the truth is most of the time, if somebody's asking me how to detox, they're to a point that it is dangerous, and it's probably important for them to talk to a doctor because they're concerned about seizures at that point or strokes and that kind of stuff. And I'm not giving advice on that. I know better. Also, I'm insured, and yeah, I have errors and omissions, and if somebody sued me, I could pay money out if I needed to or have legal counsel, but I don't want to do that. So the best way to do that is just say, ding, ding, ding. I'm not a medical professional. Let's talk to a medical professional. That's something I don't talk about. A lot of people will ask about things like relapse prevention plans, ways to maintain sobriety. Of course, I'm going to jump right on that. Like, hey, how do I redesign my life? Hey, I've got this going on. Hey, have you had this experience? That's stuff that I love engaging with, because the reason I do this is so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. A lot of us say, put the shovel down. That means quit digging the hole that you're digging in whatever it is your disordered behavior. Put the shovel down. Let's start to build a ladder. I'm here to help you build a ladder. I'm standing outside of the hole. I built a ladder myself. I would love to help you build your ladder, because the truth is, it's best if you build your ladder instead of I give you a ladder, because that way you should you ever fall back in there, you can climb back out. And that's kind of what we're wanting. You know, I want people to be steady, able to move forward in their life, able to, years down the road, you know, things slip up, they can figure out how to get it back together, because life's funny like that. And that's experience that we have from time to time. Everything can be in place. 10 years down the road, the wrong thing happens, we make the wrong choice. Well, we want that to be the end of the world. We don't want our sobriety to be threadbare. You know, we don't want to feel like we're just a piece of dental floss is holding our sobriety together. That's not what we want, right? And if you should get there, I hope that maybe I've helped provide some tools for you along the way so that you can rebuild afterwards. That's really what it's about. It's about you being whole and you being able to make better choices so that you have a better life. You know, it's that simple. We have been talking about swapping addictions. And my contention is that generally it's not a thing unless you're truly swapping one disorder behavior for another, okay? Like if you're trading a substance for a substance, there's parity there. Like, yes, okay, you traded one addiction for another. But do people don't get addicted to church? Like, sure, people join cults and stuff, but if somebody's going to church every night out of the week and they're staying sober, that's a net positive as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not super overly religious. Like, I'm not arguing that somebody should go to church, but I'm saying I'd rather hear about Becky going to church 7 days a week than hitting the bottle 7 days a week. I don't see any harm in that for the most part, right? Okay, cool. Guy's going to the gym all the time. Cool, good for him. Running all the time. Cool, good for him. That guy's going and playing racquetball or pickleball too much. Good for him. Video games even. I don't find them to be particularly productive or useful, but I think they're more productive and useful than using a substance. And that's a fact, like, bar none. Sure, people have disordered video game use. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. And we're not talking about swapping an addiction for an addiction. What happens is people take an extreme example of somebody not drinking as an excuse as to essentially why they should just keep drinking. Okay, that's not a good thing. Amy, nice to see you on here. Chancellor, what's up, dude? Chancellor says, hello, Dylan. Chancellor has been around for years now at this point. I am happy to have you as a member of the community. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. This guy makes me laugh all the freaking time. Also has like the best style of anyone I've ever seen. It's crazy. I love it. Yeah, I just don't see us trading one addiction for another. I started this off talking about the sweets thing. It's a problem, but you can get that under control. If you gain some weight, you can lose some weight. Like those are things that are easier, way easier to manage. Chancellor says, leave Becky out of this. Fine. I'll leave Becky out of this, okay? I just want to see people making better choices, whatever it looks like. Whatever those better choices look like is what I want to see people doing. Because they deserve a better life. That's it. I want to see people end whatever disordered behavior they're dealing with. I particularly work with people that are drinking alcohol. It's what I have the most experience with, which means it's easier for me to identify some of the same behaviors in you that I took part in, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? And you know what they say, like, it's kind of hard to bullshit a bullshitter. You know, like, I'm aware of some of the sneaky things. Excuse me, frog in my throat. I'm aware of some of the sneaky things that we try to pull off when we're in active use, when it's alcohol. So, like, you can't, I'm sure you could fool me if you really tried. I'm not suggesting somebody tries to try, but, like, I can kind of tell. And also I can help you identify when you're starting to backslide. Like, oh, hey, you're kind of moving back towards these types of behaviors, which may lend itself to you behaving back into the bar. So let's not behave ourselves back into the bar, right? Let's make some changes so that we can improve our situation and not slip back. Because the problem with finding ourselves in a disordered behavior is that it's like ruts, okay? Like, I don't know that all of you have been hiking, and just in case you haven't, I'm going to, like, illustrate it as best I can. But, like, you have human migration trails. That's what they are. Like, that's what a hiking trail is. It's human migration. Humans have walked over this area enough times that it's just like dirt, you know, and it's packed down. It's pretty stable. It's pretty solid, and it's set there. It's pretty well set. Now, that's an easier hike most of the time than to go out in the brush, right? Where you might have to get a machete out and like cut stuff away so that you can get through. So in our disordered behavior, we created a human migration trail for ourselves. We did the same thing over and over and over and over so many times that there's a trail. And when we want to change that behavior, we are now actively making the decision to leave the path, leave the trail that's been most commonly followed in our lives, and do something differently. And it's hard, and it's uncomfortable, and it sucks. And it's just the whole time you're off the trail, you're looking off over there, and you're like, there's the trail. There's the trail. I know all about that trail. But you're choosing not to go on it, and it feels uncomfortable because that looks comfortable. It's familiar. It's known. I want to go back over there, even as much as it might suck. Your disordered behavior might be ruining your life, completely destroying your life, but it is more comfortable. It is less foreign than where you're at right now. And where you're at is hard. It is hard. It is uncomfortable. It is difficult. You do have to get a machete out and like chop down some weeds so that you can get through. You might have to get over some boulders. You might hurt your feet. You know, there's all sorts of things that might be going on over here, which makes that over there look even more comfortable, even if it was horrible and doing you so dang wrong the whole entire time. So when you're in this uncharted territory, life does just want to pull you back to the trail because the trail is common, it is familiar, it's known. So that is where, well, when you're swapping behaviors out, you want to be an architect about this. You want to be designing a map. I mean, if you're going to leave the trail, you need to be paying attention to where you're at and potentially charting it ahead of time. You know, like, I can get from here to there if I go this way. Like, I don't know that there's a trail there, but I know that I could get there, you know, like early explorers using an azimuth to figure out like what direction they're going, what's their bearing and where they're headed, doing things like that. Obviously, you're not really going to do that, but that's where the gym stuff comes in. That's where the going to church stuff comes in. That's where, if you're into 12-step stuff, going to AA, NA, CA, any of that stuff comes in. Because, well, here's a trail. And on top of that, I want to point this out. Those trails are already well traveled. All of them, okay? To greater and lesser degrees of success, that's a given in anything. And also, your mileage may vary in those experiences, right? We don't know how good of a hiker you are. You know, we don't know that. But the thing is you can find trails that people have already charted and you can take them, which makes it a little more comfortable, a little less foreign, so that you're less likely to decide to go back to the trail you spent so much time on that's doing you so dang wrong. I want to read some comments real quick. Elizabeth says, love that analogy. It's one of my favorites also. Like, I just feel like it's something that really anybody can pick up. Yeah, it resonates with most people. So I appreciate that comment. I'm glad that it hit for you. Chancellor says, when I first started trying to stop drinking, I thought if I would just drink beer. I was not really drinking alcohol until I started drinking 2 6-packs in an hour. Go figure. That one's really interesting. I did the same kind of negotiating. It was like in my mid-20s, I guess it would be, early to mid-20s. I had like this season where I drank like a bunch of Admiral Nelson, which is like spice rum, a lot of it. Like I would drink a 5th of that a night sometimes. And I decided I was going to like get better. So I started drinking wine instead. Like, I'm like, well, I'm not drinking whiskey, but like, then I would drink 2 bottles of wine in a night. Like, that's not, you're doing the same thing. You know, it's still the same thing. What I get this a lot from people. Well, I don't really drink. I just drink light beer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The difference between like light beer and like, you know, a higher grab beer is like a standard drink of light beer is like 12 ounces. A standard drink of a heavier beer is like 8. But you could, like Chancellor's just talking about, you can still drink a lot of beer. You can still consume a large number of standard drinks. Like that's the way that they measure, the easiest way for them to measure to figure out like how to help people not get out of control. You can still drink a lot of those in a day, in an hour, in a week, in a month, in a year. You know, like switching to beer doesn't solve the disordered behavior. It just makes it look different. And that's an important thing to recognize. Like, so what? Like, so what? That was the story of my drinking, especially to the end. It was like, how can I do this in a way to disguise it from others? And this is an interesting thing. More importantly, disguise it from myself, okay? How do I drink in a way that I can lie to myself about this behavior not being a problem? How can I like church this up so that I don't feel bad about the thing that I'm doing? Yeah, it's interesting. Chancellor says, tell your mom I said hello. Dude, I'll definitely tell my mom that. For those of you that are watching, he's very serious about that. We're not making a your mom joke here. My mom's a very sweet older lady, and she's very nice. In my comment section, she's very supportive of her son and the things that he's doing. So she's interacted with lots of the people in the community, Chancellor included. Chancellor the other day had asked if this one lady was my mom. I said yes. So yeah, I will definitely tell my mom that you say hello. Yeah, so I think like that, in a nutshell, what I was just talking about, that like churching up the drink, it's like you're playing this shell game, you know, like how can I hide this from me? How can I hide this from other people? It's like, that's why I advocate for pure abstinence, truthfully, because I did that I quit drinking and I would use cannabis instead. And I would tell myself that it's not as bad. But man, when I smoke, I'm not doing anything. I'm useless. Like I watch TV, play video games, eat food, go to sleep. Like sure, I'm not out drinking and driving, which by the way, I didn't do that much in the end. Like I sat at home. I got drunk all by myself. I mostly didn't bother anyone as long as they didn't engage me on social media, because then I was just a jerk all the time. It wasn't productive. Like it wasn't as harmful, I guess. But if I'm holding still and life's still moving forward, am I not moving backward the whole entire time? Like if nothing about me changes in a 10-year period, while the whole world around me is completely different, did I not lose ground in that process? I would argue that you did. I would definitely argue that you did. I got some comments coming in, so I want to get those. Rebecca replies to Chancellor. Chancellor made a comment about leave Becky out of this, and Rebecca said, what about me? And then Rebecca had said, oh, love that. That's so sweet. I assume that's talking about the thing with my mom. David said, hi, Dylan. Hi, everyone here. Glad to be here. Dude, we're stoked to have you. I for the most part, this is a very inclusive community. I do what I can to police and moderate the actions and activities of people in it. There's some trolls that I do let hang out, mostly because they're trolling me. It's hard to get blocked. I'll put it that way. Engaging with my profile, it's hard to get yourself removed from the community. But there's one thing that will get you removed every single time. If you mess with someone else in the community. You can come after me all day, dude. Like, I have almost 75,000 followers. I expect it. I expect that there's a target on my head from some people. I expect that something that I said pissed someone off because I was willing to stand up and say a thing. And everything that you say is polarizing because someone disagrees with it. And that's okay. So I expect someone to not like me. That's okay. But you don't get to be a member of the community and come in here and be rude to other people. If you're rude to other people, you'll be on. Like, I will get rid of you. You will get blocked. I have a very short list of people that have been blocked, but that's why they've been blocked. You know, if you start recommending to people that they should drink, even if it's a joke, you're gone. I'll get rid of you. If you start picking apart someone else's recovery program, telling them that they're doing it wrong, even though they are sober, I will remove you. It's not useful. It's not productive. You'll be gone. But otherwise, you know what? The community's always excited to see new faces because most of our faces are friendly faces and we like people. That's it. Rebecca says, I really do think I'm bodily and mentally different than someone who can drink in a controlled way. That's what we call terminal uniqueness, Rebecca. I don't agree with you. I mean, you're welcome to feel that way. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you because I've heard that from pretty much everyone that I've ever worked with as a client, and then we find out that it's just not true. I don't agree with you because most of the stories probably that I share resonate with you. So then I guess we're both different, which means that neither of us are different. You know, there are probably 100,000 people or more that have had the same experiences that you have. So, or just a little different, just a little teeny bit different. So I don't like hearing that type of stuff. I'm not trying to pick on you, for the record. I just would be a real piss poor recovery coach if I allowed you to continue to have a narrative in your head that's not serving you. Because how is that useful? That's the question you should ask yourself. In what way, shape, or form is believing that useful when it comes to you getting sober, you improving your life, you changing your life for the better? Like what utility does that have? I mean, I'm all ears. I'm not really calling you out, but like, I want you to think about that. Like, how does you take that and make that useful? Because that's not what people do with it. Like, that's not what I've ever seen anybody do with it. It's like, well, you know, this just won't work for me because of this thing. You know, it's like, well, I don't know. I don't believe you. But it's easy if you feel that way for it not to work. But I talked about this last night. Self-efficacy is the number one predictor, the number one by miles and miles, the number one predictor of long-term sobriety. That is our belief in our ability to get and stay sober by whatever means that we're going to use. So if the narrative we're telling ourselves is that we're somehow different, then that would lead us to probably believe that none of the things that work for other people will work for me. Well, there goes your self-efficacy out the window. You got the opposite of self-efficacy. You've decided that nothing will work for you. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm saying that that's what I see people do, and we're not all so different after all most of the time. So if that's the story you're telling yourself, I would recommend that you sit down and write a new chapter that doesn't include that verbiage because it's not useful language. For those of you just joining us, I am here taking comments, questions, whatever, in the comment section. I am here to socialize with you guys. So if you have questions about recovery, you have anything like that, feel free to drop them in there. Today we've been talking about switching one addiction with another addiction. My contention is that for the most part, it's not really a thing. It's actually just kind of an easy way for your drinking buddies to get you to continue drinking because you spend too much time in the gym now instead of hanging out with us drinking. And that's not it. That's just not it. It's not a thing. Chancellor says, my sister and I went out to dinner and my sister ordered a non-alcoholic drink that looked like a cocktail. And I thought about how I missed my old cocktail, which was a Long Island. And I decided that ordering non-alcoholic drinks could be a trigger for me. Then it could, I mean, that right there, that self-awareness is the most valuable thing that you can have in long-term sobriety. Like being able to notice that, like, you know, I probably shouldn't do that thing because it's like it's just a little too close to that other thing. And I could find myself deciding that I want that other thing, you know, just too much. There's also a lot of people that non-alcoholic drinks are super useful for them in their recovery. Totally depends on the person. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I have had limited experience with non-alcoholic beers. I had a couple, and the reality is I don't much like beer. It turns out I probably never really liked beer that much. I liked getting drunk, and now that the beer's not getting me drunk, it just kind of tastes gross, and so I just didn't really enjoy it. Granted, they were like a year old. I had a company send me some non-alcoholic beers to try to get me to promote them, and I kind of was like, hey, I don't really drink them. And I drank them about a year later for a video as a prop so that it looked like I was actually drinking beer. So it might have been skunky, or it might have been like I just really don't like beer. But my whole thing is that everyone's recovery looks a little bit different. And what's important is what Chancellor's saying is his ability to be aware of it maybe being a problem. And that's all that matters. If you recognize it might be a problem, maybe you don't play with it. Like that's the way to do it. Let's see. Elizabeth says, I think the utility is when you are in a setting where people are drinking and you are not, and they seem, whether or not they are, whatever you believe, you must stay to think, well, they seem fine, so I could just have one or two. But no, we can't. So the utility is saying, nope, I can't drink normal. Then it may be healthy, at least to start. I love that. I totally, totally love that. I'm going to read through Rebecca's comment. She says, if that's your experience, it's totally valid. For me personally, I don't know if I could ever control it. It's useful because it acknowledges that, in my case, it's going to get out of hand every single time. It's less about being different and more about understanding that some people can moderate or control it, but that some may not be able to. That does make sense. I could see that being useful. I talked a lot about that yesterday, I think, or the night before. I apologize. I don't think anybody's in control if they're drinking. I don't believe that anyone's drinking moderately. I think that it's easy on the outside to view that other people are. But nobody knows what's going on in their head. Nobody knows that there were years in my drinking where I wasn't in control and I wanted to quit. Nobody knows that. They know that now because I talk about it. The thing is when we argue for being able to moderate or control our drinking, we're arguing against biology. Like, we are arguing against something that's pretty much immutable. You know, like you cannot change in general. You cannot change the way that your brain reacts to ethanol. You cannot change the metabolic process. There are some people, very few for the record, who are genetically different in the way that they don't metabolize it like most people. That's going to happen in everything. Fine, whatever. In general, again, we're speaking in some generalities here. In general, biology is biology. The way that your body metabolizes alcohol, ethanol, is going to be the way your body metabolizes ethanol. Like, that's just the way that it goes. In that metabolic process, you want more. There's really no way around that. It dehydrates you, makes you want to consume more beverages, generally alcohol that are around you. You know, you are urinating more, so that is then also telling your body, hey, I need more. You're doing the same thing. It's diuretic. Like, everything about alcohol itself lends itself to you needing more. So it would be a hard sell for you to convince me that anybody is controlling it. And I'll take it even a step further. If you used a long enough time horizon, like a couple of years for the vast majority of people, and you asked, and I'm saying a couple of years, if we were to stretch it out for decades, like if you just ask somebody who's 60, how many times did you drink more than you wanted? And it's going to be more than zero. How many times did alcohol make you sick? It's going to be more than zero. The thing is that a lot of people are in control of their drinking because they just don't drink. Because once they realized they weren't in control, they were like, I'm completely done. Like, that would have been the best course of action for literally any of us that are probably watching this tonight, right? Like, if I would have just never drank again after the first time it made me sick, my life would have been way different, you know? Yeah, there you go. But all of that is to say that it does make sense to me what you're saying that I don't think that I'm capable of controlling or moderating. I think that's one of the most important things that you can learn or understand or believe along the way, especially if you can then move it into action, okay? I can't control how much I drink, therefore I just can't drink. If you can just like do that, there you go. Like, there's your golden ticket. The problem is that too many of us are looking for a way to like do that different. You know, like even after we figure it out, like, oh, I can't moderate. But what if this? But what if that? What if this? And we do that over and over. Then it'll be like, well, what if I only drink on holidays? What if I only this? And like, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. It's just not it. Let's see. And I really, Rebecca, I really hope, like, I don't want you to think I'm trying to invalidate the things you're saying or debate you or rebut or anything like that. I'm just sharing my experiences, my knowledge, and that's it. That doesn't make yours any more or less valuable or valid in any way, shape, or form. I'm just sharing other perspectives because this is a war waged entirely in our heads. Barring the fact that you may actually be truly chemically dependent, which is very, very, very few drinkers, for the record, barring that you are in that group, it's 100% battles and wars that are waged in our heads. And the way that we wage them is by reframing the arguments that we're having with ourselves for or against actions that we're taking. So this is how we do it. This is the way that we do that. Gary says, good evening. Gary, nice to see you on here. Doris, nice to see you. Wanda, nice to see you. Wanda says, this is why I stay watching you. You know, not the traditional stuff works. I think it depends. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to skin this. Like, there really is. So, I'm not, dude, if you want AA, go to AA. You're not going to get that from me. And that's not me bashing AA. That's just me saying, like, if you want that party line, there are plenty of people that are willing to give it to you. You can go get it from them. If you're looking for something different, I have that for you. It will include some of that doctrine because some of it I think they got right. I think they got some of it right. That's a reality. I've never, ever said that they got everything wrong, right? I've never even said that they got everything wrong or any of that, right? I'm just saying, I'm not going to take you through the steps here. Like, that's not going to happen here at all. I'm not going to bust a big book out and start reading. We're not doing that. Elizabeth says, sorry, my phone is blowing up and now it's telling me it's bedtime. Elizabeth says, Rebecca, I get what you're saying. Ralph, nice to see you. See you just joined. Elizabeth says, perhaps the thing that can be agreed on is that some people don't like the effects as much as the rest of us, so they can stop after a certain amount of time. That 100% is something that we can agree on. That's really what the literature suggests more than anything. Even as far as, like, if there is genetic heritability, which is super highly debatable, by the way, I fall firmly in the camp that it is not genetic. You are not an alcoholic because your granddad was an alcoholic. Like, that's a bunch of bull, okay? The thing that we can agree on is that your body may metabolize it in a way that makes it easier to consume enough to lose control. Because that's actually the literature. The literature suggests that anyone on planet Earth, regardless of genetic heritability, different chromosomes, good Lord, why can't I, it escapes me, I apologize, currently experiencing aphasia, but man, that's really gonna bug me, but regardless of genetic makeup, frequency, so how often, and volume, how much, are the only things that predict whether we will develop a disordered behavior. And that's to absolutely anything, folks. Like, anything. Food, gambling, substances, you name it. That has to do with frequency and volume, okay? So the reason that I do take issue with the genetic heritability argument is, like, there's still a huge component called environment. So we'll fall into the nature-nurture thing. But the reality is that if you don't drink, it's not a problem. It's just not a problem. It's just not a problem. So whether we have the genetic makeup that will make it easier for us to consume larger volumes more frequently, if we just don't do that, it's not a thing, right? It's not a thing. So it's interesting. Anne says, did you frequently black out? I did towards the end. I can remember, I mean, I didn't have a lot of blackouts when I was younger. I still drank a lot, but I didn't have that occur. In the end, like, I lost days, like, literally lost. I will never forget this. My mom lived with me. I'm a in college. I guess I would have been a junior. It would have been like my junior year in college. And I had, most of my homework was due on like Thursdays, I want to say, Wednesdays or something like that. And my mom's like, are you going to do any homework this week? Like this one day. Like I just drank. She lived in my house. I just did my thing. She just did her thing, right? This one day she was just like, are you going to like do homework this week? And I was like, I have till Wednesday. And she's like, it's Friday. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I like get all frazzled, and I just remember the level of anxiety I had. And then when I find out that sure enough, it is in fact Friday, I just time traveled multiple days. So yeah, blacked out like that. Yes, experienced plenty of blacking out. Rebecca says, oh no, I value your input. Find it fascinating. It's totally cool, bud. I appreciate you. Appreciate you too. Chancellor, first of all, thank you, Robbie, for hopping on. Chancellor says, but Dylan, you have people who claim they can control their drinking and will bet you to a drinking game of how much they can drink. Yeah, sure. Let's do that. That sounds like something that I would have done that helped fuel the frequency and volume required to develop a use disorder. Kathy, welcome to the show. Elizabeth says genetic variations. Yeah, so the way that we metabolize alcohol, there are different ways that people do it. What is it? Alcohol dehydrogenase is one of them. I apologize. What is the other one? I'm not going to be able to remember all of the different solutions involved in the metabolic process of alcohol. But like one of them, alcohol dehydrogenase, depending on certain genetic markers, you may produce more or less of it. I'm almost positive it's alcohol. This is the alcohol dehydrogenase, and I apologize if I do get this one wrong, but it is the one that has to do with what they call like Asian flushing. So that in a lot of the Asian population, they can't consume alcohol as well. They can't metabolize it as well, which is what causes their faces to get really, really red when they're drinking. And that's because there's a buildup of, this is going to make me mad. I've never done this on the show before. I got to pull up notes real quick from a previous one so that I have the correct answer to this, because it will bother me. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Yes. So it's alcohol dehydrogenase converts ethanol to acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde dehydrogenase converts it to acetate. Okay, so what will happen is as the acetaldehyde builds up, our body doesn't produce enough of the acetaldehyde dehydrogenase to break it down. And as that builds up, our face gets redder. And the truth is we start essentially getting sicker because the acetaldehyde is more toxic to you, okay? More toxic to you than ethanol. So in our body's attempt to metabolize alcohol, it creates a more toxic component, which it then breaks down further to a less toxic, but still toxic component, okay? So there are different variations that we have. Let's see. So I thought that was the word you were going for when you said chromosomes. Sorry, that wasn't clear. No, but you are right. I mean, that is actually what I was looking for. But it's not. It still isn't that. But thank you for pitching it, and then also making me refer to some previous show notes to remind myself, so that I didn't have the metabolic pathway of alcohol incorrect, because I didn't want I'm pretty sure it's that one. But yeah, so like what will happen is, yes, like there are people who are better at metabolizing alcohol than other people. Then that's the thing. So it just makes it easier to develop disordered use because you can drink more often and drink more during that time. Yeah, so there you go. Excuse me. Chancellor says your mother is very proud of you, Dylan. I appreciate that, man. And I think that, you are right for the most part. She tells me that often. Zach, welcome to the show. Chad, welcome to the show. Guys, I've been on for about an hour. Elizabeth says, just over here keeping you on your toes. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Keeps me sharp, you know. It's an interesting thing. Like, I did a number of shows. I used to do a show with a guy named Dr. Ryan. He was a relationship coach. We did a show called Dylan and the Doc. It ran for a little over a year, and it was weekly or sometimes multiple times a week. And we would talk about the intersection of relationship issues and disordered behaviors, right? Because they go hand in hand, right? There was a couple weeks where we did like a series, and what I was mostly covering was the genetic and metabolic stuff, because for some reason it was very popular in my comment sections at that time for people to try to like argue for it being genetic. And like, this is always my concern. There are some people who use it being genetic as a really convenient excuse to continue to drink. Like, well, I can't get better because genetically I'm just an alcoholic. And like, sure, tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself to make it feel better, to make the choices that you're making. But the data isn't really there. It's not, as far as like actual statistics are concerned, it's not statistically significant. That is to suggest that there's no predictive factors of any of the research that's done on genetic heritability when it comes to alcohol use disorder. And they've done some pretty robust research, by the way. Like, they've done stuff with twins separated at birth, and then longitudinal studies on those people. What they find every single time, like, obviously that's hyperbolic, but most often what they find is it's an environmental factor. If, you know, Jenny and her twin sister are separated at birth, and Jenny spends the majority of her life with a family that drinks, it's more likely that she's going to drink and develop a drinking problem. And I think that should just be assumed, you know, like, and that's what we see, regardless of any sort of genetic factors at play, is that you see. That's why people call it like a generational curse. My parents drank a lot. I was therefore socialized to drink a lot. If I drink a lot, I'm more likely to develop disordered use of alcohol. It's any of that stuff. Like, we're just modeling the people that came before us. And if you come from a long line of people that what they do every Christmas is just get blackout drunk together, you're going to produce generations of people that just get blackout drunk at Christmas, and it's probably not going to stop at Christmas. Like, I don't think that's a bridge too far, guys. Like, I just really don't think. David said, there's a great TED Talk by Johan Hari where the basic concept is the opposite of addiction is connection. If you or anyone in your audience have not seen it, I do recommend it. I drink alone, but when I'm around the good people in my life, family and friends, I don't have the urge to drink. Dylan, can you possibly share your experiences in connecting with others in terms of sobriety? Sure. I drank alone. Like, I would infrequently go out and drink with other people. The vast majority, once I was in disordered use areas, it was just me by myself on my couch, like, just doing that thing. And even when I had a partner, I would still drink by myself. Like, I would drink until like she went to bed. Even when she was awake, I still was like spending most of my time just like drinking in the garage by myself, you know? So it wasn't something I did with people. My drinking didn't decrease when I was with friends. Usually if I was with friends, I was like going out to a bar. So I would drink sillily with other people, drink a lot. It didn't change that behavior very much. But in getting sober, it was really important. It was important for me to find people that I could connect with, find people that I could identify with. I spend most of my time alone now, except for like with my kids. And then I guess if you want to call this spending time with other people, but I don't think that that would have been very helpful in very early sobriety. In very early sobriety, I think that it is important to find people. But I also do want to, I want, like, it's really important to think about all of the different narratives that we pick up from the stories, even the things that I'm talking about. You should be examining the things that I'm saying, okay? You should decide if the things that I'm saying resonate with you. That's important, okay? A lot of these things have like these trap doors that we don't think about. So, and this is where I want to share a little bit of my story with you to kind of just illustrate why I'm bringing this up. When I like got like officially sober, right? Like have years of sustained sobriety at this point. At that point, it was like, hey, the opposite of addiction is connection. You need to spend time with people. You need to go to meetings. You need to do this. You need to do that. Like all of that. That is the narrative that I'm sold and how important all that is. And then COVID happened. Okay, like it's like I got sober at the end of February. Okay, so here in the United States, like April, the end of March, April is like lockdowns. Like that is when like you're not connected with people anymore. Like you're not going anywhere with anybody. We're all social distancing. It's like Zoom meeting life at that point. So the reason I say that is I still had to stay sober. Even in that position where like it was lonely as hell, super duper lonely. I wrote a school project on that whole thing, right? Like it was very alienating and very lonely, and we still have to make a choice to stay sober. So I just think it's important that we don't draw these lines in the sand so firmly that like, if we buy into the party line that the opposite of addiction is connection and like I can't be lonely or I might drink, then if we find ourselves lonely, it becomes very easy for it to become an excuse to drink. Granted, I will suggest that if you are hungry, if you are angry, if you're lonely, or if you're tired, it is a lot easier to find yourself wanting to make some poor choices. But dude, there's going to be times that you're hungry that you have to choose to not drink. There's going to be times that you're angry, you have to choose to not drink. There's going to be times that you're going to be lonely. There's going to be times that you're tired. You have to choose to not drink in those things. So it's like, they're really pretty stories, and I'm not devaluing them in any way, shape, or form. I just want everyone to always think that regardless, none of this stuff's set in stone, and we have to be able to be flexible from time to time in these situations. So my suggestion, David, is like, yeah, connect with people and have friends, but figure out how to be comfortable being lonely, being alone also. And then also start to figure out if maybe you're only lonely because you've never connected with your own authentic self in the first place. And that's like work. It's like some work to get there. But like, when you really get to know who you are and you're very comfortable with who you are and you're very comfortable in your own skin, being alone doesn't feel so lonely anymore. That's been my experience. Your mileage may vary, right? I hope that was useful. If you have any more questions, follow up, whatever, please let me know. Yeah, I hope that somehow that was useful for you. Chancellor said, I had rice wine once. I believe it's called sake. And I black out after the room started spinning around. Yes, sake is sake was a catalyst in the beginning of my narrative that drinking made me fun and cooler and more social. I had a good time, but I definitely did black out during that. Chancellor said, I remember, and I just wanted to hear about recovering from alcohol. It was Dylan in the doc. Yeah, that's why Dr. Ryan and I quit doing the show. Because this is what would happen. You would have, he would field the questions about relationships. I would field the questions about recovery. And you could see your audience. Like, I can see how many people are on right now. I can see who they are. And what would happen is that the people that were there for recovery, if Ryan went on talking about relationships, they would leave, which makes sense. I mean, like if you're watching something on TV, right? And it's like a car show. You're like, yeah, I love cars. And then all of a sudden someone just starts talking about flowers. Like it's Martha Stewart. You're like, I'm out. And you're going to change the channel. And that's what people did. And vice versa, of course, right? If there's a bunch of people from his audience that were like wanting questions and answers about relationships, and then I go off about alcohol, they leave. So we realize it's like, hey, we can't really do this together. Like, yeah, it's a cool show. It's a great idea for a show because there is all this intersectionality. But the problem is that the audience is here for what the audience wants. And if they're not getting what they want, they leave. And if you're doing a live show and we're trying to get questions from people to answer their questions, it just doesn't work because you're playing this crazy game where like you're just bouncing this ball off to the other side and back and forth, and you're just not getting the questions. What happens is you answer this question, you lose half your audience, and then you don't have an audience to ask questions anymore. Right? Yeah, it was cool, but it didn't work as well as we had hoped. Lisa, welcome. Karen, welcome. Karen, two Karens, welcome. Karen asks, did you lose friends being sober? For sure. Yeah, like, this is going to be gendered. There's a pretty significant amount of research on this, so I'm not trying to be sexist or anything here, but like there's gendered communication styles. Not that language is male or female or anything. And there's also like gendered ways that we do relationships. And that's to say that like not all guys are this way or not all women are this way. But generally speaking, males, our relationships exist based on activities. Like there's not, like most guys do not just like call someone to tell them about their feelings and like vent. It's not a thing that a lot of guys do. What guys do is they do an activity together, a sport or something like that, and they don't talk. They don't connect that way. They connect through doing a thing. So if as a male, all you do is drink with this guy, if you quit drinking, you don't really have anything in common anymore. You don't have things that you don't hang out anymore. Because what do? Like, I never called Dave to just, like, see how he's doing. Like, Dave and I just drank together, and then, like, occasionally he might need a favor or I might need a favor, and we would ask that. But, like, there was no real substance to the relationship. So when I quit drinking, I lost a lot of friends. And that's not to say they weren't friends, because some of those people, for sure, if I was like, hey, I need help moving a couch, they're going to show up, right? But you quit drinking, and you just don't spend time together anymore, and then you don't nurture the relationship because the way you relate is communicating. We're not communicating anymore, so we don't have a relationship. We're not maintaining it, and that's okay, you know. And I've lost some other friends because maybe they weren't really that good of friends after all, and it just took me getting sober to realize that. I had one falling out with a buddy, which actually sucked a lot. He made this comment about how he wished I can't remember exactly what he said. He was like, I like the old you better or something like that, which basically was like, I wish you still drank. That was enough for me. I didn't even need to have a discussion. We were done there. But yeah, no, I mean, like, you have to think about this. Getting sober fundamentally changes you as a person, because a lot of what you are is what you repeatedly do, right? Not only in action, but you have to think about how alcohol impacts you hormonally. How it will fundamentally change you as an individual. Like your identity will be different once you get sober and you stay sober. And there are going to be people that liked the person that you were. And there are going to be people who you don't like once you become the person that you are. And that's okay. It's called growth. And it's not that anyone's outgrowing or outpacing or anything. It's just growing in different directions. And we just let that stuff go. And it's okay. Like, I made a piece of content quite a while back. It was like, it's okay, sometimes the trash takes itself out. But like, I mean that very seriously. Like, if you have a relationship that seems to be deteriorating with someone because you got sober, you can talk about it if you want to. Or a lot of times, it'll handle itself. Like, most of the friends I lost when I got sober, I didn't need to like call them up and be like, I don't think we should be friends now. You know, like, you don't have to do that. It's just like, we just don't hang out anymore. And that's okay. No big deal. Let's see. Chancellor. Whoa. Chancellor says, towards the end of my drinking, I started drinking alone, and that is when my drinking got scary, and I started hurting myself because I was drinking more when I was alone because I was alone. And then he says, my drinking made me feel lonely. Yes. There's like a lot of people that, what I've heard is that your addiction wants to get you alone and wants to kill you. And I see that. I mean, I'm not gonna anthropomorphize a substance and act as though it's like, because you hear that a lot. It's doing push-ups in the parking lot, just waiting for me to relapse, that kind of stuff. But like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna personify it. But I definitely think that we have a tendency to isolate as our behavior becomes more and more disordered. Part of that is because you can't, going back to the losing friends thing, dude, how the hell am I going to relate with somebody if what I'm drinking is a fifth of whiskey in like a 5 or 6 hour period? No one wants to do that with you. Like, because people don't want to do that. In general, people don't want to do that. There are super few people that want to do that. So being able to find a homie that wants to polish a fifth of whiskey in a couple of hours with you every night is not a thing. And if you can find that, it's probably not good for either one of you, if we're being completely honest here. So it is just an isolating experience. There's so much shame involved and so much guilt and all of this stuff going on that, like, of course we want to drink by ourselves, because I don't want anybody to see me when I'm like this. I don't want anyone to know the monster that I've become. I got tired of saying stupid shit to people in public and looking like an idiot. So the way I could avoid that is if I just stayed at home. Then I started acting that way on social media. And then I realized, like, the way I can also avoid that is if I stay off social media. Like, if I just completely isolate myself from the world around me, I can avoid embarrassing myself. And I can just keep getting drunk because I'm embarrassed and because I'm ashamed and because I'm guilty. So it's like big Ouroboros, like a snake eating its tail. That was the experience the whole entire time. But like, yeah, I mean, I drinking was the loneliest experience I've ever had in my whole entire life. And it's a chicken or the egg thing. People are like, well, did you drink because you were lonely? I don't know. But I know that I was lonely. And it doesn't matter if I drank because I was lonely or if I was lonely because I drank. Like, not really. What matters is that you just identify that in this equation of loneliness, my substance use was a key component in that. And if I could remove the substance use from it, interestingly enough, the loneliness can go away. That's to David, the question that he asked earlier about, like, if I could share like my experience with connecting with others and sobriety and stuff like that. Like, part of the thing is that, like, yes, connection is important in recovery. Connection is important as a human, okay? That's an important thing to recognize. Like, in your humanness, we are speaking animals. We are tribal animals. We exist in the way that we exist today. We climbed to where we did on the food chain because of our ability to interact in large groups, function in large groups, function as herds, right? So it would make sense that that didn't go away. We still want other people in our life, like almost demand to have that. There were like some studies done with babies that people didn't interact with, and it didn't turn out well for the babies. Like, it's important for humans to interact with humans. But my whole thing is that a lot of the loneliness, a lot of the isolation was purely the substance. Like, it wasn't the substance's fault, but it was the substance's fault. Like, I wasn't a lonely child or anything like that. I wasn't lonely before I started drinking. That wasn't really it. Very interesting experience though. Chancellor says, I'm glad to be seeing more posts from you. Yeah, I've been making it a point to be more I don't know, just more into this space. I mean, I've talked about it a little bit before. Like, the kid's mom and I separated this year and divorced, and like that had a tremendous impact on me psychologically, to be completely honest with you. There was a point, like, I didn't know if I was going to coach again. I didn't know what the future looked like. I didn't want to take on new clients, like, because I worked with clients for a year. So, like, I didn't want to take on new clients. I also have this thing happen where in one of our agreements is that we won't post about the kids, which is a huge part of my identity, man. Like, my kids are everything to me. They're central to my world. They are the thing that matters to me the absolute most. And basically the argument made by the lawyers was that if I post about my kids, like pictures of them, it's then a threat to them because somebody from my page could like find my kids and hurt my kids. And like, my argument was, well, that's interesting because my children are in marketing for their freaking daycare on the website because there was a release that says they're on there. So like, somebody that wanted to find my kids could just find that website. That's a thing, right? But no, I can't post pictures of my kids, even if posting a picture of my kids doesn't show anybody where they're at or anything like that. So I have that going on. So I just had I had a lot of stuff going on where I was like, I don't know if I even want to do this anymore. Like, I don't know, like, not that I don't want to help people, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to, because this is a lot of work. Like, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to create this much content. I've literally poured an hour and a half of my day into just this live today, right? It's a lot of work. It's time consuming. So, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I want to keep spending the time. And I wasn't really in the headspace, but I'm feeling very, very good. The kid's mom and I navigated the separation and the divorce, I think, pretty damn well. We're co-parenting incredibly well at this point. Like, we had a birthday party for our daughter turned 8 and our son turned 3. They're born on the same day. We co-hosted the birthday party for them today. And her and I laughed and joked and had a good time and everything. We're not great romantic partners, but we're good parents. So we're still doing that. I'm not seeing my therapist a lot. Like, life is good. So I have the energy to produce content again. So that's what I'm doing. Because the truth is, I love coaching. I love helping people get sober. I know, I know the impact that drinking had on my life, and also on the people around me because of that. Like, it didn't, but it would have eventually had a significant impact on my children, right? We talked about generational curses earlier in the show today. Like, that's a thing, right? So if I can help another person get sober, it's not just their life that gets better, it's the lives of people around them also. So I feel like this is this is the most politically active I can be. That might sound weird, but like, truthfully, this is the greatest impact I can have on the world at this point. This is where I have the most leverage. So it would be a shame if I didn't do it. You know, like, it would be a shame if I didn't do it. Let's see. Mike, welcome on. Anthony, dude, nice to see you. I've noticed you comment a couple times. It seems like, recently anyways, seems like you're doing really good. I'm glad to hear that. Matthew, nice to see you on here. Chancellor says you've handled your divorce very well. You ran a marathon. Yeah. I mean, part of the reason that I did handle the divorce so well is because I was training for a marathon through the process. Like, you can't escape yourself when you're miles from home, and the only way to get back home is to run miles back home. That's just a reality. So it was like forced therapy, where I had to work through things in my head. And then, I had a therapist who I worked with more frequently through the process. It was a thing. But part of the way I handled it so well is I didn't escape it. I wasn't numbing it. I didn't go to drinking. I would have drank. We did almost divorce at one point, and I drank through the whole thing. It was horrible. It's a horrible experience. Made everything worse, right? So that's part of it. It was easier to handle it well because I was in the mind state, like the state of mind to be able to handle it, because I was me. I was sober. I was authentic, right? Like, I was emotionally regulated, as emotionally regulated as I could be, given the circumstances, present and capable of responding to situations instead of reacting, you know? Like, I didn't send shitty text messages. Like I didn't like there was none of that stuff going on. There would have been if I was drinking. That's the truth. Anne says you saved my night. I will take that. I appreciate that. We'll count that as a W in the chat for everybody. And I'm glad that your night has been saved. I'm not 100% sure what I did. If I helped you avoid drinking, that's fantastic. I'm glad that you're here. That's why I'm doing this stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Elizabeth says, glad you're in the space. As I said to you before, it's the best gift you can share with the world. It's helping to improve another's life. That's it. I mean, that's seriously it. I recognize that my flavor's not going to be everybody's. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. It's not for everybody, but it's for the right people, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Chancellor says, did your wife dislike your sober self? Man, I will be honest with you. I don't think it is useful for me to, for the most part, discuss the relationship with my kid's mom and like what happened, why it happened, and all that stuff. I'm not trying to like, I'm sorry if you feel like I'm like stonewalling or trying to avoid the question, but like, my kids are really important to me. And it would be a shame if somehow the way that my kids viewed me or their mom was tinted because of something that I ever said about her or me or our relationship online. So it's like, no comment, you know? Maybe at some point there will be some disclosure there, but it would be something that I would have to navigate pretty well. And it wouldn't be something that I would navigate on a live. Like, it's something that I would write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and share with her and have her look at, and us to really be able to come to a meeting of the minds. Because like, I also realized like, yeah, it's my story to tell and she's got her story to tell, and they might not always match, but I just don't see the utility or how it's germane to this. I do know that it's a common thing in the sobriety space for people to have those concerns. And I guess the one thing I will say is that getting sober, like I said earlier, fundamentally, it changes who you are as a person. So it's going to have an impact on your relationship. And I'll just leave it at that. Like, you're going to be a different person. And that's just the way that it goes. For better or worse, right? Let's see. Chancellor said, was you or not drinking become a problem for your wife? I would say, like, I will say this. This is something I'm more than willing to share, and I think it is germane. We were together for like 11 years and some change. 5-ish years of that I was drinking. Of those 5 years, my drinking was not completely problematic. I won't ever say my drinking wasn't a problem, but I'll say that it wasn't like super destructive to the world and the relationship or anything. It was like a thing going on in here for the majority of that. And then I spent the last like 6 years of our relationship with me sober. There were some things that occurred in active addiction, things that were said that couldn't be taken back and things like that, that fundamentally impacted the foundation of the relationship. And that's that. And it could never, I don't know how to have repaired it or anything like that. So it just made navigating a relationship difficult, whether it was because I got sober or not. I don't know. Like, because the truth is that this same things, same issues, fundamental differences between two people with or without alcohol could have still resulted in relationship dissolution, even if I was still drinking, right? So that, yeah, I mean, there's that. But yeah, I became a very different person. Also, we spent 2 years of our marriage apart, like smack dab in the middle of it, where in that 2-year period, I think I saw her a total of like 20 or 30 days. So like And then when I came back, I'm sober, and it was different. It was a different thing. It was just a different thing. Chancellor says some people don't like me being sober. Dude, that's going to happen, for the record. I talked about that earlier. I have a guy who used to be a friend of mine who told me he liked the old me more. You know, he preferred me drinking. And there are people who prefer who I was drinking. Like, I am a little more serious than I was when I was drinking. Some people might think I take myself a little too seriously. Fine, whatever. The way I see it is like, as far as I know, I only have this one life to live, and I want to make the most of it. And if that means I take myself seriously along the way, shucks, don't care. This is my biggest thoughts about this. I wish that all of us could just accept that, in general, most of the time, what someone's actually saying to us is, you live in a way that I would prefer not to live. Regardless of what the big thing is, the actual message is, you live in a way I prefer not to live. And that's probably okay, because when someone says that to me, I could almost always say it back to them. You know, they live in a way that I would prefer not to live. And I wish that we could just let that be. Barring the situations, of course, where like it actually causes harm to one party or the other, the way in which we are living. Like, I get a bunch of trolls that like they take issue with the fact that I don't drink. Cool, dude. Keep on scrolling. I'm glad you don't like that I'm glad that you don't like that I don't drink. Cool. Good for you. I don't want to drink, but I'm not coming on their page, their profile, and being like, hey, I think it's stupid that you drink. Like, I don't do that. I don't even do that in my own content. Like, I think I do not like alcohol. I think it's a horrible thing. Like, I under no circumstances do I think it's something that a human should consume. But like, I'm not making prohibitionist content. I'm not coming out and being like, everyone needs to quit, the government needs to ban alcohol. Like, I'm not doing anything like that, because I don't think I don't think that's how you would ever win that anyways. Like it already didn't work once. I mean, you have to think about how in the United States, alcohol is constitutionally protected. It is constitutionally protected. Like, it's crazy to think that a thing that we have only discovered more and more is worse for you, the longer we've been paying attention to it, we can't actually like get rid of, because it's constitutionally protected. Like, yeah, you could, but it'd be like a thing. Currently, it's constitutionally protected. That you can't ban its sale or production. Holy crap. Like, what the hell? But I don't think it's not useful for me to get in somebody's face who's still drinking and be like, you need to quit. You know, that stuff's bad for you. Like, we mostly know that. Like, and that's it. Yeah. Guys, I've been on for an hour and 40 minutes. I'm starting to get tired. I'm gonna take Matthew's question, because he's actually asking a question that I think is worth getting to. Not that any of the other ones aren't, but I want to take this one, and then I'm probably gonna get off because I am starting to get tired. Matthew says, any good suggestions to stay motivated when you're 3 months out and feel great? Yes. So, for one, whatever you're doing, keep doing that, because it's worked for 3 months. Like, whatever routine you found yourself in that's helping you maintain that, you should do that forever, basically, like, because it's worked. And it's that, you know, it says that you feel great. So just keep feeling great. Keep doing that. There's going to be, motivation's a myth, first of all. Like, motivation occurs after we take action. And that's why I say keep doing the thing that you're doing, because that's the thing that's helping you continue to do the thing that you're doing, is the fact that you're taking action. The more that you take action, the better you feel. You feel good, which makes you want to take more action. It's just this really cool cycle that you create, and you just keep on maintaining that. If you're asking, when you're asking about to stay motivated, I would think that you wouldn't need to stay motivated until maybe you find yourself in a season that's not so good. And in that case, also still keep doing what I just said, which is keep doing what you're doing right now. That's where I see people drop the ball. Okay. I got divorced this year. All right. I maintained my routine to the best of my ability. I still had days that it wasn't as easy. I had days where like I was confused as to how to implement my routine because I went from having 4 kids that lived with me and my partner, and like it was a whole routine. And then now I found days where the kids weren't even here. I'm just all by myself. Like, what do? My routine looks very different. I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but should I anyways? Yeah. I don't, like all those kinds of things come in. And the best way to continue to just maintain the experience that you're having is to continue to do the things that are generating the experience that you're having. So when you have a season that sucks, you still need to go to the gym if that's something you do. You still need to read books if that's something you do. You still need to journal. You still need to do all those things to continue to create the same reality as best as you can. I'll have people that ask me, like, what do you do when you travel? Literally the same thing that I would at home, as closely as I can. Like obviously I can't go to the same gym. Like workout equipment might look differently. Weather might be different, so running might actually require a treadmill. Like those kinds of things will shift. But I'm gonna do everything I can to try to replicate the same experiences all of the time. That's actually the secret sauce. Like that's actually been the topic of today. Are you replacing an addiction with an addiction? No, but you're going to replace a behavior with a behavior. And if you find a series of behaviors that, if you do them, provides a result that's net positive for you, then keep doing it until it doesn't work. Like, do more of what's useful and do less of what's causing you grief. That's it. That's what you do to maintain sobriety and continue to feel great. That you could spend your whole life in the pink cloud if you just keep doing more of what has you feeling good. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet thing. Matthew, I thank you for the question. Truthfully, it was a good way to leave tonight. I want to thank all of you that are on here tonight. I appreciate you having me be a part of your Saturday and being a part of my Saturday. I will be on again tomorrow night at 7, and then 7 Central Time. And then I won't be on again until Wednesday. I'll be on Wednesday, Thursday, and then like I'm actually on like a tear after that because my kids will be with their mom for a part of the holiday, and then they'll be with me. But while they're with their mom, I can think of very few better ways that I can utilize my time than to help some people on here. So yes, thank you guys. David says, thank you, Dylan, and everyone on here tonight. I hope everyone has a great and sober weekend. Yeah, back at you, and everyone else. I hope that you're doing well. Marianne, nice to see you on. I'm just taking off, but I'm stoked to see that you popped on tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night at 7 Central. We'll see you guys later.